SpringBlake College Football Show. How about it? Live for the very first time from the great state of Texas. Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Today is Monday, May 25th. Season 2 of the SpringBlake College Football Show is underway, if you'd like to call it that. Here from Texas. Hope you guys like the new digs. If you are watching on YouTube, we've got a great setup here. It's been a little while since we did a show. It's been, I think, close to 3 months, if not a little bit more. And there's one big reason why. We moved. Jess and I picked up our bags, took out from Nashville, moved down to Fort Worth, which we've been here for the last month, 2. I've been traveling back and forth a lot, so I haven't necessarily been fully moved in until the last few weeks, but settling into life down here just fine, off to a great start. And how about these digs, man? How about these digs? I love the studio, love the setup. We are in a spare bedroom here. Jess, find yourself someone, a significant other that really allows you to express your very weird and strange hobbies. We've built out an awesome spare bedroom here for me that feels like a little bit of a man cave. Maybe I'll spin the camera around at some point and share it with you all, but shout out to her for allowing me to take one of our extra bedrooms we have in our house down here and turn it into this. Now, did she do that because she knew I could be tucked away from the rest of the house and she wouldn't have to see the Busch Light sign I got up over here or, all the hats and the shoes that I've collected over the years? Maybe, but that's still reason enough. That's still a good reason for her to do something nice like that. So again, couple months off because we made the move. Really been enjoying it so far. And now that we're settled in, I wanted to get this show back up on and going. So I know it's the end of May. We've got a few months until what's going to be a really awesome college football season. Throughout the show, we'll get into what the show is going to look like here and now, into the season, all that stuff. But just wanted to set the stage and say that I'm excited to be back, excited to do another season of this show. And I appreciate all the support we had in year 1. And now let's take it to the moon in year 2 and beyond. So really, today's show, our first one back, I didn't want to go into all the nitty gritty stuff. I kind of wanted to just share my thoughts, lingering thoughts that I've had this entire offseason, where we finished off last year, what's happened since then. I've just had a few things kind of stick out to me more that's happening in college football or stuff that will be happening in college football that I want to share my 2 cents on. So we're going to do that. We'll set the stage for what the show will look like beyond that, and then we'll get on out of here. So let's kick off the show with something positive. Again, lingering thoughts from the offseason. The biggest one that sticks out to me, I want to start with something positive. I believe that we are in for an all-time year of college football. Now, obviously, college football will never give us a bad product. There's just too many teams, too many outcomes. The regular season is unlike any other sport we've got. There will never be a bad year. But everything that has transpired in the last few seasons, I think, has set us up for a golden year for this sport. So let's start off with the Blue Bloods. Virtually all the biggest brands in this sport are near or at the absolute top of the national title odds leaderboard, and that's Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas, Georgia, LSU. They are all inside the top 10. Just outside, you've got programs like Alabama, Oklahoma, USC, and Michigan. You've got renewed hope at massive programs like LSU, Florida, Auburn, Penn State, Michigan, even throw in Oklahoma State. Those are some massive brands in this sport. When those programs are humming, the fan bases are elite. They all have massive renewed hope this year as they enter new eras under new and very talented head coaches. You've got programs like Miami that made a strong resurgence last year. Mario Cristobal has built that thing up, and now they're here to stay. Texas A&M has found its footing under Mike Elko. Oregon, searching for that get-over-the-hump type season under Dan Lanning. Virtually every brand in this sport that is worth a damn has something to look forward to this year. And that doesn't even talk about the individual players, the sport. And this is maybe because of the transfer portal gives extra years and the money people stick around a little bit longer. The sport is littered with top-tier talent that is going to dominate the season. Jeremiah Smith, yeah, we all know him. He might be the best wide receiver prospect of the last decade, and even he has competition at the top of the list in college ball with Malachi Toney. Leonard Moore, elite cornerback prospect this year, locking down Notre Dame's secondary. You've got fantastic mammoth offensive tackles like Jordan Seaton, Trevor Gooseby, Carter Smith at LSU, Texas, and Indiana, respectively. And then you've got amazing tailbacks. Kawan Lacey at Ole Miss, fantastic player. Jaden Baugh at Florida. Ahmad Hari obviously has to make a healthy return to the football field after an unfortunate situation this offseason, but all three of those guys, fantastic talents at tailback. Colin Simmons, elite edge defender. Dylan Stewart, a freak athlete if he can put all the pieces together. Oregon itself might have 3 to 4 first-round picks on their defensive line alone. And that is not even scratching the surface of the quarterbacks. Arch Manning, Dante Moore, CJ Carr, Jaden Maeva, and Drew Mestemaker could all solidify themselves as top 10 NFL draft picks by the end of this season. That doesn't even take into account the flamethrower Trinidad Chambliss, who's back after one of the most exciting seasons and stories from a college football quarterback we've had in quite some time. Darian Mensah, set to light the stage in a very similar way at Miami. John Mateer is back after a hand injury derailed his Heisman campaign, back with a vengeance. You've got guys like Gunnar Stockton, Julian Sayin, who do everything they're asked to at Georgia and Ohio State to a T, and then some. And then you've got other guys, Bryce Underwood looking to make a massive leap into stardom at Michigan. Josh Hoover and Sam Levitt will try to win big at their new homes with high expectations. Lenoris Sellers, Marcel Reed, two of the freakiest athletes at the quarterback position in college football. Massively high ceilings if they can find some consistency. And don't forget, we got Connor Wegman and DJ Lagway carving up opposing defenses in the Big 12 this season. If you know, you know. How is that for setting the stage for the 2026 college football season? I never have shame wishing away summer. We're sitting here at the end of May. I wish it was the end of August, just so we could get to football just a little bit sooner, especially true this season, knowing how much that we've got on our plates. I think when it's all said and done, we finish up the 2026 season, we'll be saying, man, that's one of the best years we've had in quite some time. I also think that the familiarity and comfortability with all the new eras now, we've had a few years of the 12-team playoff. We've had a few years with the transfer portal. We have a few years with NIL. I think programs are starting to get a sense of what they need to do to win, and I think it's all going to come together in a fantastic season. So I'm fired up. I hope you guys are. That's why I can't wait to get this show back up and running. Now, it's not all positive. It can't be. Now that I've praised the teams and the players, let's shift our focus a little bit to another lingering thought I've had this offseason and address the negative that's currently swirling around the sport. Because I do believe, outside the players and the coaches, the powers that be, college football, it is flirting dangerously close to falling into the same trap that the NBA did a decade ago, making poor spending decisions when an influx of cash hit their bank accounts, and then making bad business decisions to mask those poor spending ones. I'm not sure if you guys delve into other sports outside college football. If you do, power to you. I do as well from time to time. No regular season has become more worthless over the last decade than the NBA. They recently expanded their playoffs to include 10 teams from each conference about in 2020, I believe, meaning that the majority of their league currently gets in. And since then, and that's just 5 or 6 seasons since then, 20 different teams have made the playoffs with a 500 record or worse. Literally participation trophies for what should be considered a bad season. You go 500, not a good season. Can you imagine going 6-6 in college football and being like, hey, we're going to the playoffs? Or could you imagine being 5-7 and being like, wow, can't believe it. The committee let us in. That's what's happening in the NBA right now. The ability to have a chance to be average or bad and still get a pathway to the postseason has killed the importance of their regular season. Just this year alone in the NBA, there were 89 games that were decided by 30 or more points. The average margin of victory in the NBA this regular season was 13.1. Both of those metrics are NBA records, the worst of its kind. And we can trace these back. The sole cause of all of this and the poor decisions traces back to bad money management. The NBA This is what, a decade ago, maybe more so. The NBA inked the fattest TV deal that put $24 billion into their pockets, and they did not waste their time using it. Since that deal, since that new TV deal came in, $24 billion into their pockets, the league's salary cap has gone from $70 million to $155. That is an increase of 121% in just 10 seasons. For reference, the decade before saw, I think it was just like a 15% growth, maybe 20% growth in the decade before. And so to validate that ridiculous rise in pay, the NBA started selling us on an in-season tournament that no one cares about and an expanded playoffs where teams with losing records can say, hey, we made it. So just to recap, because I know we're spending way too much time on the NBA here, they capitalized on their prime and blew their load far too quick, realized they were already too deep with no option to scale back, and then started to sell us on a product that nobody wanted in the first place just to say that the money being spent is warranted. Nobody needed an NBA Cup. Nobody needed an in-season tournament, but to validate why the players were getting so much money and the TV deals kept going up, they said, we got to give them more. We got to give them all this stuff they didn't want because we have money. We need money. We need more. That's where the NBA is at. And that's where I see, okay, look, there are several reasons why college football would never step into the same court as the NBA. No losing team would ever make a 24-team playoff. That just wouldn't happen. A 12-game regular season will always hold more value than the NBA's 82. I understand we're trying to compare sports that do operate very differently, but it's hard to not say that college football is facing early onset NBA-itis with the ideas that are currently being floated around. College football is in its prime right now. There are more eyeballs and more money on the sport than it's ever had before, just like the NBA found itself when that first TV deal came into play. And with all that money and attention, you're now starting to see leagues, universities have zero idea how to manage their new funds. The lack of structure surrounding what you can pay players has totally messed up the pockets of some schools out there. The middle class of college football is getting absolutely gutted right now. I mean, and take it even further than the players. Coaches are getting these absurd buyouts that could cripple the university when they have to pull the trigger. You know why Mike Norvell didn't get fired this past offseason? Florida State would have been buried alive with the dead money they'd have to give to him. So you've got really poor spending, and you've got a lack of structure. Now that you've got those things circulating, the league is just deciding the easy answer is to sell us on a product that the overwhelming majority is opposed to. An expanded college football playoffs is like the NBA Cup, or like adding in playoff games, or to play-in games to the 9 and 10 seeds in the NBA. They are trying to sell us a product we don't want just so it can serve as the Band-Aid for the mistakes they've already made. The sport of college football is in a great place right now. Let's let it be great before we rush to make rash decisions. I have always lived under the assumption that the NBA playoff or the college football playoffs will eventually get to 16. It's a number that, is probably bigger than I'd like it to be, but it feels right when you talk about how big the conferences are now and the representation you'll want from each. There's a way that I can sell myself on a 16-team playoff and be like, I feel like we're giving teams a fair shot in there. But as soon as you start to make decisions like a 24-team playoff that would take away the importance or even the existence of conference title games, rivalry weekend, just the overall meaning of the regular season, which is the best part of college football, that's when you lost what this sport is truly about and fall to the pressure of money, just like the NBA has. I think reason will prevail. I think we'll keep it at 16. But anything beyond that, I really think you start to lose the value of what this sport is all about. So there's one positive and negative where the sport is right now. Before we start to get into other things here, I want to take a second. If you've made it this far in this show, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, wherever you are finding this show and you've made it this far, thank you. I appreciate you. If you've happened to find us for the first time, awesome. You caught us right at the start of the new season. If you've waited 2-3 months for us to get back on the airs, we're back. Hope we didn't miss too much. I love doing this. It is the best thing I get to do in terms of what I would consider work. Now, it's play because it's fun, but there's a lot of work that goes into writing up the docs and making the videos and editing and all that stuff. I want nothing more but for this to be my thing, and I cannot do that without your guys' support. So please, if you are watching on YouTube, just hit that like button for me. Doesn't do anything for you. Hit the subscribe for me too. That you'll get a notification when I post a video. I'm sorry, I'll try not to post a ton. Subscribe, support the show. If you are on Spotify, leave it a 5-star review. If you're on Apple, I don't know what the review system is there. If it's 5 stars, leave it 5 stars. Please support this show. I want us to be here at the end of the 2026 season saying, hey, look at that. We picked up an advertiser. We picked up a way to monetize this thing a little bit. I want this to be my thing, and I cannot do it without your help. So if you're already supporting me, you mean a ton to me. If you're the first 50 to 60 subscribers we got on this channel, you're the real ones. You're the ball knowers. But obviously, need this to grow and grow and grow. So please do it there. On our socials, too, we're now expanding where you can find this show on social media. TikTok has always been the biggest one, at SpringBlake CFB. You'll find a bunch of clips from this show, just other stuff about the show overall. We're going to expand to Instagram this year, so that's going to be at SpringBlake CFB as well. And then if you are a Twitter person, SpringBlake CFB. If you're a Threads person, SpringBlake CFB. Social media, just go spam it out. Support this show. Again, I want this to be the thing that I do for the rest of my life. So I appreciate any support you give and continue to give. All right, so now that we've talked about the league as a whole, the good and the bad, let's get into team-specific, player-specific, the league as a whole for 2026. And there's one team in particular, one that I have been beating the drum for over a calendar year now, coming up on a calendar year, that is still at the top of my mind. Still to this day, I don't think Oklahoma is getting nearly the respect it deserves for where it is as a football program. And for this year specifically, I will not shy away from saying I think we have a bona fide national title contender. The last we saw this group was in a home playoff loss. They blew a 17-point lead to Alabama. Alabama then gets its doors blown off by Indiana, who goes to win the national title. It's easy to play the transitive property and say, like, this team had no chance of winning a national title in 2025. And you're right. The team had some fatal flaws that even Oklahoma with a healthy John Mateer wouldn't have been able to overcome. But that doesn't mean that we have to completely write off this group for 2026. Because first and foremost, we get a healthy John Mateer. John Mateer is back on the field at 100%. I know that he only missed 17 days, I believe it was, after the hand surgery he had in season. But as long as you have two eyes, you're able to understand that he just wasn't the same type of thrower post-surgery. Now, as we gear through summer and into fall, the hand is back to normal. He has tinkered with his arm mechanics to be a more sophisticated thrower, minimize the sidearm action, and he still got the benefit of working alongside one of the better playmakers in the game in Ben Arbuckle, who knows just what to do, the buttons to press to get the most out of him on a weekly basis. I think that Ben Arbuckle getting there for another season, I was worried he was going to get plucked away as a head coach. I think he's one of the better offensive minds in the sport, and I think a second season will surely get him in that range. But I'm glad that he's back here to work with Mateer for what I believe is going to be a really special season. So having Mateer and his Heisman caliber play back is a great reason to buy in, but it's not the only reason. Brent Venables is still running the show, and just as my opinion, I still believe he's one of the least respected great head coaches we have in the game right now. At the very worst, Brent Venables is one of the best defensive play callers, probably the best. And he's completely revamped that side of the ball from the mess it was when he showed up. I think in his first season, the team he had, the defense was in like the 1 teens. I think that's how bad they were. They were a top 10 group this past season. Another top 10 group he'll have this year. They lose some pieces along the D-line, are Mason Thomas, Grayson Halton, Marvin Jones Jr., all three are gone, but the production will be made up for with guys like Taylor Wine, Jaden Jackson, and David Stone. They'll make up for that. I believe the defensive line, while maybe not as deep, is still going to be as talented at the top. They made a huge addition in the portal. Cole Sullivan comes over from Michigan. Very talented middle linebacker. Him and Kip Lewis will be a fantastic tandem at the linebacker position. And the secondary, it was a group that was the weakest unit in 2025. I just remember that game against Ole Miss when it came late. They couldn't stop Trinidad Chambliss throwing the ball deep at all. That happened a few times in the year. They didn't make these massive overhauls in the secondary, but the hope is that another year of continuity will have the group trending upward in 2026. Again, just believing in Brent Venables as a coach and a developer. I think that group, it's not going to be lights out, but it'll be just fine, especially when you've got a great front seven to help it out. So everything's going to be great on defense, I believe. And then on offense for Oklahoma, the biggest thing was that this group needed to make life easier for its star quarterback. And they've given me plenty of reasons to believe they'll do just that this season. Parker Livingstone, Trell Harris coming in out wide will make for an awesome, well-rounded receiving core with Isaiah Satania. They lose Deion Burks, very talented player. I think the room overall has a lot more pieces that feel like a well-rounded receiving core. That you have a guy that can do each type of thing on a weekly basis. Torrey Blaylock, Xavier Robinson, they had moments of flash at the tailback position last year. It was never consistent. Some games were a little rough. The hope is that new running backs coach DeLan McCullough can tap into some more consistent play from them overall. He's a very well-respected running backs coach. I know they replaced DeMarco Murray for him. So I have faith that the talent and the coach can marriage itself into a better run game. And then when you look at the offensive line overall, it was a group that had its ups and downs. I think they gave up 29 sacks last season. I think it was good for 99th in the country. Bad overall when you consider it. But they played some really young dudes out there last year. And by the end of the year, some of those guys came on really strong. Michael Fasusi and Eddie Pierre-Louis, those are going to be the guys at left tackle, left guard. That's a really strong duo. Michael Fusasi, I believe, was playing as a true freshman out there at left tackle. You do that in the SEC as a true freshman, you got my respect. So I like what they have on that side. Ryan Foge, another developing young piece. He was a true freshman that came on as the year went on. I believe he'll slide in at right guard. And they plucked Amarian Harris away from Arkansas, a guy that's got a little bit more SEC experience. He should man down right tackle. So again, I can't tell you that it's going to be perfect, but from where it was at the beginning of last season, even to where it was toward the end, I think you're going to have a much more polished and capable offensive line. So Heisman caliber quarterback, tremendous coaching staff, and a roster with a really sturdy floor, in my opinion, with a sky-high ceiling, especially if those transfers can hit. I didn't even mention the fact they added in 2 tight ends, Hayden Hansen from Florida, Rocky Beers, name of the year from Colorado State. If you just get a handful of those transfers to really hit their stride, I think you've got a fantastic team here. I really am floored. The team's win total is sitting at 7.5 games. They had a harder schedule last year and an injured quarterback for the majority of the year and still went 10-2 in the regular season. So I think that this is another 10-plus win season for the Sooners, one that could easily find itself in Atlanta to play for an SEC title, and I do believe it's a group that's on the short list of true national title contenders. I know they're down. I mean, I can't even remember. This is the nice thing about having this laptop in front of me now is I can just go ahead and check it. Where they were in the national title odds, and I guess this kind of pivots us to our next topic, so I shouldn't just totally blow my load here, but to win the national championship, Oklahoma is at plus 2,700, below Alabama, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, A&M. They're better than all of those teams. Right now, they're better than LSU. I think that they should be in the top 8 as far as it goes. And that pivots me to my next conversation. So we'll stay on the topic of national title contenders. Let's talk about who they are, because as it stands right now at the end of May, I think there are 8 teams in college football that are in a tier of their own. And that includes, in no particular order, Indiana, Miami, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. Now, that is not me saying that your national champion is guaranteed to come from this group. I do believe there are a few teams sitting outside this bunch that maybe in May aren't the team that I want them to be, but by November, they could certainly be in that group. But as far as this list is considered, and again, I'm going to say it a couple of times, Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana from the Big Ten, Georgia, Texas, and Oklahoma from the SEC, and then you added Miami and Notre Dame. Those are the teams that here and now on May 25th that have everything that I'm looking for out of a national title contender. And what I'm looking for is essentially this. One, do you have a head coach that I believe to be either one of the best in the game or one of the best play callers in the game? All of those check that box. Do you have two, a roster that has more than enough returning talent from its previous season to make me feel strong about the development and continuity? All of those teams, yes. Do you have three, select portal additions that will either mask prior weaknesses or enhance current strengths? Yes. And then four, do you have a quarterback that is either a master of the system and does everything you ask him to, or is he a game-changing talent that can will his team to a victory on any given Saturday? Those 8 teams have all that in place right now. Love the coach, love the roster, maybe at least 85 to 95% of the roster. You have most of it from a roster standpoint. And I also love the production you're going to get from their quarterback. Now, take a team like LSU, who I think is just outside this group and knocking on the door of being a national title contender come December. But right now you've got a new head coach that's overseeing a roster that has 56 new players on it. You have a quarterback that's been nursing an injury all offseason. And then you have a team that last year did have some serious fatal flaws that I still need to see fixed before I believe they're fixed. I need to see LSU block well. I know it's a new era, new regime. I need to see them block well, need to see them run the football well. If I can see those things and I can see everything come together, the team of LSU come together, yeah, they're a national title contender. Right now, no. Alabama, too many questions at O-line and tailback right now, plus a new quarterback. Love one of them. Love both of them. One of them, Keelan Russell, big fan of. Texas Tech. No Brennan Sorsby, certainly changes the ceiling of their abilities. Texas A&M, I need to see more consistent play out of its quarterback. And then USC, I love USC more than most. Probably you guys wouldn't even want them mentioned on this list, but I do need to see it come together before they get my full stamp of approval. I've been banging on the door that USC is climbing through the ranks, but until they start beating these big dogs in the regular season, I can't fully invest myself in it. So even though we're 3 months away from the upcoming season, just store that in the back of your mind. The top 8 teams in the sport that have a head start on the rest of the pack are Texas, Notre Dame, Georgia, Oregon, Miami, Oklahoma, Indiana, and Ohio State. I need a drink of water. Whew. Man, ready for some ASMR? Maybe I should turn away. Hope you guys like that. All right, so we're almost wrapped up on today's show. I do want to take a second to talk about fine details of what this thing is going to be like. So I've been trying to think the best way to build up some sort of following here. Obviously, it's college football overall, but if you're a fan of college football overall, there's guys that do this a little bit better than me. You're going to follow a Josh Pate. You're going to go to a Joel Klatt. You're going to go to other guys that have a better pulse on the sport overall. A lot of these shows got their start by finding certain niches and really honing in on them, building up the fan base there, and then drawing fans from the sport overall to the overarching topics. So from here on out, and this is for the off season, we'll talk about what's going to happen in the season. We're going to do 2 shows a week. Every Monday is going to be college football. It's going to be the SpringBlake College Football Show. We're going to talk topics from New York to California, everything in between. That's what Monday is going to be. Thursday shows, do something different. We're going to do SB in the SWC. That is a lot of letters to just say SpringBlake in the Southwest Conference. Now, if you guys are not familiar with the Southwest Conference, I wasn't either. You know why? Because it died the year I was born. Southwest Conference, back in its heyday, apparently one of the most electric college football conferences. It covered everything in the state of Texas. And then it also branched into Arkansas. I believe they were the one exception. It was everything in Texas. The conference was Texas, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Houston, Baylor, TCU. I think Rice was in there, and Arkansas. So Thursday shows SpringBlake in the Southwest Conference, SB in the SWC. We are going to try and make that our niche. That's going to be our niche right there. We're going to talk everything Texas, move down here, want to get, in with the community, going to a ton of games this year that I cannot wait for. We're going to make Thursdays SpringBlake in the Southwest Conference. When we get to the regular season, I might try and double up on the shows. Might do a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then do college football, Texas football, college football, Texas football. But for right now, when we're still getting a hold of everything, Mondays, college football, SpringBlake College Football Show. Thursdays, everything from Texas to Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Baylor, Houston, TCU. We're going to cover the big dogs, SMU, can't forget them. Sorry, ACC, I forget you guys still exist sometimes. We're going to cover those teams primarily and try and build up a nice Texas following here. So make sure to check that out. If you find us through that and you come over to the SpringBlake College Football Show, that's even great. We got to try something a little bit different to pick up the following on YouTube and Spotify and that sort of stuff. I believe that TikTok has been a really good way to find people, but we're always trying something new. So we're going to do that. I'm really looking forward to it. First episode will be this Monday. We're going to do kind of like a pulse check on those 7 programs as we sit here in the middle of summer. All right, one more lingering thought from the offseason. I chose to bury this one down at the end of the show because I would consider it maybe the spiciest thing we're going to mention today, and it revolves around one of the biggest brands in the sport, that being Ohio State. As we sit here at the end of May, collecting my thoughts on the upcoming season, I kind of don't believe that Julian Sayin is the right quarterback to lock into the Buckeyes' fullest potential in 2026. Now, when you say something like that, you have to obviously, the first thing you have to say afterwards is that Julian Sayin was fantastic last season, perfect at doing what Ohio State asked him to do. 77 completion percentage, 3,600 yards, 32 touchdowns, 8 picks. That is truly phenomenal production for a first-year starter. They had a great season, undefeated, made it to the Big Ten title game, lost narrowly, lost in the first round of the college football playoffs. Fantastic season when you consider that you had a redshirt freshman playing quarterback for you. But despite the production and the success that Ohio State and Julian Sayin had, it was so hard to get a good feel for their offense that entire year because they never really faced any serious competition along the way. And when they finally did, Sayin's numbers were drastically different. That 77 completion rate, try 66% against Texas, Indiana, and Miami. The 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, how about 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, also sacked 12 times. And yes, I know what you're going to say. Julian Sayin did all those amazing things as a redshirt freshman. He's going to get better. And I agree to a certain extent that Julian Sayin will develop as a player. Processing speed will go up, ability to read defenses, those should all be a notch up this year, just by way of being an older, more experienced quarterback. But the top-end talent does have a limited ceiling. Julian Sayin is not the tallest guy around. He's not the biggest guy around. He's not this dynamic athlete that you can use in the run game. Struggles a ton under pressure. Can't extend plays when you need him to. Being the guy with elite accuracy is an awesome trait to have when everything around you is perfect. But are we so sure that everything is going to be perfect around him in 2026? The Ohio State offensive line was not what they needed it to be last year. Sure, it was in the regular season when they didn't play anybody, but when you saw against their toughest games, it wasn't what they needed it to be. And I can't say that the moves and changes and the group that it's going to look like in 2026 has me feeling all that much better about it. They couldn't run for shit when up against competent defenses. Against Indiana, Texas, and who was the third one there? Miami. I think they averaged about 60 yards per game. And they also didn't add in a game-changing presence at tailback. I know Bo Jackson, everybody believes in him. He's a great guy. I believe he's a talented player, but I just don't know if he's going to be a Quinshon Judkins, Trevion Henderson, Ezekiel Elliott type player for the Buckeyes. And I will be curious to see how the departure of Brian Hartline impacts the depth of this wide receiver room. We know they lost some transfers. We know that they need, Brandon Inniss, I believe, to emerge as the nice, strong number 2 wide receiver. I'm just curious. I think it will be a little bit different without Brian Hartline there. And what if losing 2 consecutive years of elite defensive talent finally means that side of the ball even takes just the slightest step back? All of a sudden, you now need to put the ball in your offense's hands to pull out a come-from-behind victory. What happens when that's actually needed out of you? We saw it last year. They couldn't do it. 0 for 2, Indiana and Miami when they were down late. At the end of the day, Ohio State is one of the few brands in the sport where having a game manager at quarterback is really all you need to have 10-plus wins, a Big Ten title game, playoff appearance, all that. But when you're no longer facing Grambling State or Wisconsin or Purdue and Minnesota, and then the competition starts to look like Indiana, Oregon, Texas, and USC, all of whom are on the team schedule this year, I don't think that the game manager that has elite accuracy when there's a clean pocket is the guy that's going to be able to save the day when you need him to. I think Ohio State is going to be in a position this season where it needs dynamic play from its quarterback if it wants to compete for a national championship. And while I am sure there are parts of Taven St. Clair's game that is very raw and unknown, I wonder if the chatter will start to pick up by the middle of the season if Sayin can't get the job done against the Texases or the Indianas of the schedule. I think he's fantastic at what Ohio State has asked him to do. I think they're going to be in a position this year, and we saw it last year against the teams that actually mattered on their schedule. They couldn't rely on Julian Sayin to pull them out of a deficit. And I just wonder if the season starts and maybe they still get by Texas in week 2. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they'll be able to do it. They got a lot of new pieces on offense. Texas has a lot of returning talent. Then they go to Indiana in the middle of the season. How will they do against that? They've got USC the week after. If you get through the middle of the season, it's like, hey, maybe we won 2 of those 3, but one of them was real lucky, and we don't feel great about the grip of our offense. And we also know we've got Oregon coming in a few weeks. And then there's a Big Ten title game. And then there's playoff games, a national championship. The team should always be in title contention. I just don't know if Sayin's going to be the guy to take them from just, hey, I'm doing just fine here, getting us to clean victories against bad teams. I don't know if he's the guy that's going to pull us from deficits and save the day when it's needed. And at the end of the day, the ceiling of a guy like Taven St. Clair with the big arm, the mobility, the athlete, I think that can be more dangerous for opposing defenses at the end of the day. So yeah, there's the spicy take. I don't think the guy that was a Heisman finalist is the right guy for Ohio State, even though he was fantastic as a redshirt freshman. Ohio State should actually probably be happy with me because I remember at the beginning of last regular season, I said that Steve Sarkisian was going to run circles around Matt Patricia. We all know how that game went, so that's one that's been sitting for a while. You know what? One more note on that before we wrap up today's show is that I have been sitting on that one for months now, and part of it had to do with I played a college football dynasty, and I landed Taven St. Clair in the transfer portal, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He's phenomenal. And I was looking at the depth chart, and I was like, I wonder if Ohio State would maybe prefer to have an athlete like that at the quarterback position. If it didn't sacrifice too much of the consistency and accuracy stuff that Julian definitely provides. And then it gets to the spring game, and then all of a sudden he has that, Taven St. Clair has that amazing throw, has a great day, and everybody's talking about like, what is this great quarterback? And I was just like, if only I had said something months ago, I would have been the first one out there to hype this guy up. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of today's show. I'm happy to be back. Thank you guys for listening. I hope this all went well. When I do these shows, I don't have a producer, so I hope that the screen is still recording. I hope that the microphone picked up everything I said. If not, we'll do it a second time. But thank you guys again. Follow the socials. That's going to be, it's everything. Follow this show, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, at SpringBlake CFB. Like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. I love you. I appreciate you. And we'll talk to you on Thursday, first episode of SpringBlake in the Southwest Conference. We'll talk to you then. Peace.